every single person has a brand. If you're listening to this podcast, you have a brand, whether you like it or not. A brand simply is what a third party talks about you when you're not around. And so if they're not talking around about you, then you just don't have that big a brand presence. And that's the first problem that needs to be solved. If they're talking poorly about you while you're not around, then you have a poor brand. And if they're talking amazing about you, spreading the word, getting referrals, telling people how amazing this podcast is and how amazing this person is, then you have a good, positive brand.
Hey, I'm Armando Leduc, producer, film actor, and owner of Leduc Entertainment. I have chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Spaghetti on the Wall with another one. This week we have Luke Lintz. Luke Lintz, what's up, bro?
Armando, thanks for having me on here. Looking forward to this. Looking to give a ton of value to the audience today.
Yo, I'm so glad you're here. When I met you in Puerto Rico, I was at a 8-figure mastermind conference or little mastermind get-together, and you came in and you spoke, and I was like, I've got to get him on the show because y'all about to get some nuggets and grow, and that's why we're doing this podcast. So let's talk about your journey, your business, how you help people, and then we'll go into the other topics that we have lined up.
100%. Now, normally when I'm on podcasts and they ask me like where I got started and how I came up to the place where I am now in terms of being on the podcast, I usually start when I first started the business. But this one I want to do a bit different. And I want to tell about like where I am now. Because I know when I listen to podcasts, I always am like, why am I listening to this person? Why does this person deserve my time? Why does this person deserve to be a speaker on a podcast? So I'll just give like a quick snippet. Where I am right now is I currently live in Puerto Rico. I run an 8-figure public relations firm at the age of 24. Over the past 8 years, I've been able to partner up with A-list celebrities like Kevin Hart, Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, the Kardashians, Ronaldo's wife, and several other A-list celebrities and influencers. And really across our social media channels and across our clients' social media channels, we've gained over 100 million followers across all those channels. And so that's kind of the place that we're at now. Hopefully that caught some people's attention. And you kind of want me to go into where I've got like kind of the come up story of
Yeah, please.
Yeah, cool. So where it really all started was in high school. I was that dude who was constantly looking for things to do with my extra time. And I think a lot of people can reflect back on their high school journey and realize, or if some people maybe are listening to this and are in high school or university right now, and realize how much extra time that you have where you don't have that many responsibilities. You're living at your parents' house. And so you have all of this free time that is either consumed by playing video games, doing things that are not productive, maybe hanging around with friends. But what I did is I tried to figure out stuff that I could do to make some side money. And so all throughout high school, like when I was in grade 9, I went on to Kijiji, which is the Canadian version of Craigslist. And I would buy and sell TVs and bikes. And so that was kind of my first steps into like an entrepreneurial journey, so to speak, where I would just be making a quick profit. And then in grade 10, I started up a YouTube channel with my older brother. And we ran with that YouTube channel for 8 months, posting rigorous amounts of content. It was the first time I was ever on camera. And after 8 months, we had 125 subscribers. And so we were like, we're going to put this to rest. YouTube is obviously not our final career. And so we thought it was a huge failure at the time of being on YouTube, 125 subscribers, spending 8 months on that. But what we realized is that those skill sets transitioned into the next business that we were going to work on. And that's something for the audience is whenever you think of something's a failure and you're working on something in the real world outside of school, high school, university, you're working on like a side hustle, all of those skill sets compound on one another any single skill set that you're learning in the real world will be utilized and can be utilized in the future. And so nothing really ever is a failure because it's just a learning lesson. And somebody told me, Luke, just fail forward and you win. And so whenever I fail, I just try and fail forward. And so that's exactly what happened with the YouTube channels. We failed forward and we went into our first business when I was 16, which was starting up a wireless earbud company. And we were the first ever wireless earbuds to be sold across North America. And so now we had this product that we were going to sell, and we didn't have any way of marketing or getting exposure. And so we did the only thing we knew at the time, which was marketing on Instagram. And so we posted relatable content on Instagram. We basically did a meme page and grew that channel up to over 250,000 followers, and it helped scale the business to 7 figures. And then what happened after that with the wireless earbuds, we scaled that up. Obviously, our first business made some royal mistakes, even though we were able to get to 7 figures. And it's just the inevitability of business. So one thing that I commentate about the entire school system is that school really gets you away from making failures, making any sort of failures. And failures are inevitable in business. And really, the faster that you can make bigger, colossal failures and the quicker you can recover for failures, the more successful you're going to be in life. And so that's exactly what we did. We made some huge failures, ended up going in debt, and we had to bounce back. And how we bounced back from that was we did a sharp pivot, realized what we were really good at was building brands, building social media accounts. And so we started up an agency, and we scaled up the agency just doing what we did best, which was posting content, posting relatable content, growing social media based that way, and then getting more and more clientele from referrals. And it escalated to where we're at now.
And so when people come in, what are the different ways or the different services that you help them with their personal brand?
Yeah, so right now we focus solely on growing personal brands. We're trying to grow the next generation of very influential personal brands. And so we help with most aspects of the digital personal brand, which is social media. So helping from A to Z from social media, of everything from the content creation process in terms of filming, editing, posting, strategizing across that. And then we help on the Google presence side of the personal brand, helping with reaching out to our journalist connections, creating very compelling newsworthy stories, and then getting featured in top-rated publications, TV placements, and podcasts.
That's awesome. And so with that, it just like exponentially grows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Building a personal brand. When we first started with personal branding, and you can probably resonate a ton with this, is when we first started with personal branding, we thought that the only goal with personal branding was to generate leads and generate sales. And so when we first sold our original social media clients, so to speak, through our agency, is we sold our packages just purely based off of like, this is what we're going to be posting. These are the channels we're going to be posting on, solely for just generating leads. And then as we were building our own personal brands and as we were building our clients' personal brands, we're like, generating leads, getting sales is just the tip of the iceberg with personal branding. There are an infinite amount of things that happen with personal branding. You can get speaking gigs. You can build a bigger connection with the people who are currently at your company. It makes the hiring process easier because people are already pre-bought into your values lessons before even coming into your hiring funnel. You're building trust immediately. We've had clients build their personal brands, attract investors to exit their company. We had a company who was IPOing purely based off of growing their brand. All of these things that don't even necessarily have a direct correlation with sales and revenue, but are all the result of building a substantial personal brand.
I like to say you're preaching to the preacher. You're not even preaching to the choir. You're preaching to the preacher, my brother.
Literally. Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. Look, I have this conversation all the time because everybody is so short-sighted when it comes to, I want to market in order to get business through the door, and I need to see ROI on the things that, and I'm like, guys, if you really understood the investment mindset, and this good segue into mindset, right? Like, it really is about the mindset of what am I building for 10 years? Now, I don't I don't care about like a month or 2 months of leads coming through the door. Like that stuff will happen automatically. But how can I build this investment capital of social currency, right? Because that's what we're building with the personal brand. It's the social currency. And that becomes the valuation, right? That's how we value, oh, okay, this person is worth this much in terms of, their social currency. That's why Cameo, when you go to on Cameo, oh, it's this much for this person to say happy birthday to you, right? And the whole NIL thing. Are you familiar with this NIL movement?
No, what's NIL?
So NIL is the likeness for college athletes. Now they can get paid off of their likeness.
Of course I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's happening now, there's a couple of websites out there that have valuations on these athletes based on their following, based on their influence, And so as we grow into 2024, as we continue into the future, more and more decisions are going to be based on the social currency, right? And that becomes what's going to open the doors for you. So when you're so short-sighted that you're just looking at marketing and branding for money's sake and not necessarily, like you were just talking about, for the opportunity, for like all of the other things that'll happen. And we spoke offline about that book, 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan. When you start thinking in those ways, because you're going to work anyway, right? But why not work on the bigger stuff? Because those are the things that are going to exponentially grow your business. But I would love to, let's get into mindset, because I don't think that right here people are open enough to see that picture, that they even can believe that is even possible.
100%. After we dig like just deep into mindset, because there's a ton of stuff that we can talk about this, I want to bring up a point from what you were talking about, where just brand as a whole, and any single person listening to this, is every single person has a brand. If you're listening to this podcast, you have a brand, whether you like it or not. A brand simply is what a third party talks about you when you're not around. And so if they're not talking around about you, then you just don't have that big a brand presence. And that's the first problem that needs to be solved. If they're talking poorly about you while you're not around, then you have a poor brand. And if they're talking amazing about you, spreading the word, getting referrals, telling people how amazing this podcast is and how amazing this person is, then you have a good, positive brand. And so one thing that's interesting is, even if you're not an entrepreneur listening to this podcast, what I just said is every single person has a brand. And there's actually people on TikTok who work for companies and are growing their personal brand and are attracting people to the business, making them more valuable inside of their business. And so growing your brand isn't even just for entrepreneurs, business owners. It's for literally every single person, that we're entering an age where personal branding is the future of everything. It's how you can share every aspect of yourself and connect with people in so many different ways and really make yourself more valuable in the marketplace, no matter what you do.
Wow. Yeah. As I'm hearing that, it's like it is more and more evident how that is the reality. When was the last time you spent actual money? Like I don't have any cash in my wallet right now, right? And it like and I do crypto as well, right? So like crypto is here, and like I trade a lot. Right. I have vendors that we work together that are referral partners, like my COO and my CFO. We trade services. I do their content. They do my books. I do their content. They do my operations. My web designers on trade, like all of these different people. And it's so crazy how money and like services are going to be exchanged in the future, not just with cash, right? Like it is attention, it is barter, it is crypto, there's so many different ways that we can exchange like services for money or value, so this is really this is a really cool. I think they did a Black Mirror episode on this with the guy from Get Out, especially like, as far as like their value. But I mean, it's already here. You can see.
It's so true. There's been multiple people that have said that attention is the most valuable currency and the most valuable asset that you can have right now, because with attention, you can do anything with. That's why the people who are going to become the richest in our generation is the people who have massive influences right now and that are able to capitalize on that. So if you have a business on the back end and a massive celebrity, then you're unstoppable. That's why there's billion-dollar brands like the Kardashians have, because they have the most amount of influence out there, and they've just created a business with not even an amazing product, definitely not the best product,
Right.
but any product that's like managed decently with an unbelievable amount of exposure wins in this day and age.
Ryan Reynolds with his alcohol. I mean, The Rock, like the list goes on and on. So yeah. If you're listening and you're like, you're an athlete and you're starting to get into that realm, definitely start looking at, growing that personal brand and reach out to somebody like Luke to really start strategizing. I think, and you can talk to this too, about the strategy behind creating the brand. It's not just willy-nilly creating a brand. It is intentionality behind how you build up to how people are going to perceive you authentically too, right? It's not like we want to make it up, but like you really have to define what that is. You can't just like throw it around and all right, this is what it is now.
For sure. And this is actually the biggest thing that I dealt with. I'll tell a personal story and people could potentially resonate with this. Is when I first started creating content, it was the YouTube channel like I talked about, which was a gaming YouTube channel. And as I was creating that content, even though I was in grade 10, I was just thinking about how it was fun at the time. But I was thinking about, I can't imagine me creating gaming content when I'm an adult, when I have a family. I can't imagine creating content for the long term. So I always had that feeling when I was creating the content where I was like, there's no way I'm doing this for the future. Then when we started up the first business, Wireless Earbuds, we sold that purely through content marketing on our Instagram, where we basically product placed the wireless earbuds inside of videos of us creating like school skits, relatable, like comedic school content. And as I was filming that, we were generating millions of views and being able to sell tens of thousands of dollars of product in a single day, purely from the content. But I thought about that. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be creating school skits for the rest of my life.
Right.
And so all of that content that I was putting out, I felt like it wasn't resonating with my future self. I felt like it wasn't authentic. Like, even though I can come across comedic in certain situations in person, I'm like, there's no way that's how I wanted my brand to be seen for the long term. So like, I've been down that route of doing stuff without a plan associated with it and just putting out content willy-nilly. And it's very similar with a business. There's so many similarities between business and social media, but there's a balance between just getting started and getting the reps in as quickly as possible, but then also having a plan associated with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you there. It's that imposter syndrome that you got to get over. First and foremost, I think I was in a public speaking forum when Clubhouse was still a thing. You remember Clubhouse? Came and went.
I was on Clubhouse OG days. I grew up 1,000 followers on Clubhouse. Like the first crazy. 2 weeks it went out.
Yeah, it was awesome. It's still around, but it's just not as popular. Anyway, so I was on there and I was in a public speaking forum, and one thing that this guy resonates, I still say to this day, he's like, as you're speaking, me and Luke can have the exact same message. And we do, right? But like when Luke says it, he's going to resonate with a whole different audience. Me, same deal. And we could be saying the same exact thing, but the audience is going to resonate differently. So he was saying, don't get caught up and don't deprive the world of your message because of your own hangups, because of what you judge yourself to be, because of your inner critic, right? Just get out there and create the content, right? And you're going to find your tribe. You're going to find your audience, and it's abundant. I mean, there's billions of people, you're going to find your people, and you don't need to have 1 million followers to make $1 million.
It's so true, dude. I love that saying because it really gets over the hurdle that a lot of people have of imposter syndrome. And what we're really getting at there is every single person has their own story. Like an epiphany moment came up to me a few years ago where I kind of just looked around, where I had the money, I had the nice cars, I had the dream house, I had all of this, but yet I still had problems in my life. And I'm like, money was supposed to solve all of this. Millions of dollars in the bank account was supposed to solve these problems. Just the other day, this is just a random problem that I had, but I own my penthouse right now. Like I bought it all cash, and I got an email in the mail the other day, and because I painted the railings, and she emailed me saying, you can't paint the outside of the railings because it's owned by the condominium complex. And I was like, wow, you really can't avoid problems in your life. And so I was looking at, just when I look around at every single person when I'm walking around now, I just think about, wow, that person is going through problems and struggles, and they have their own unique vision in life, and they have their problems and struggles that, if they're successful, they've overcome those problems and struggles. And so they can share the lessons they've learned from that from a unique perspective. And that's really all a personal brand is you're sharing those things to give lessons and give teachings so that people can go through life with, still struggles, but maybe getting past them faster and better with your teachings.
Dude, I love that. Talk to me about mindset. I know you're starting to get into this. So talk to me about your perspective on mindset.
For sure, man. Mindset is something that I'm speaking on my social media channels primarily about, because I realized that all of the struggles that I've been through, all of the teachings that I've had, all of the things that I've really had to get past really just comes back to what goes on in between your two ears. If you think about all of your problems, like in the perspective of life, in the perspective of where if you're in North America, you're living in the top 1% of the entire world already. If you're able to constantly have a perspective like that, it puts all of your problems to just complete shame, where it's very, very minimal. And mindset around, if you're able to have a positive mindset in every aspect, like for example, we were talking about long-term versus short-term thinking, where if you're able to think long-term about everything, you automatically win. Like, I wish I could tell my younger self this, but I know I wouldn't believe myself when I was 16. Whereas like, if you do this for a long enough period of time, if you do content for a long enough period of time where you film and you post consistently, no matter what, if you do this podcast and you post consistently, you're going to get better. And it's literally impossible for you to fail unless you quit. Same with business. If you do this one business, it might not be the best opportunity vehicle. Like might not make the most amount of money, but if you do this one business and you can continue at it for a long enough period of time and keep improving day after day, it's impossible for you to lose. And most of the struggles that happened in my head, and most of the struggles with business in general, is definitely the constant fighting feeling. Even when you're successful, even when you have tons of money in the bank, it's the constant fighting feeling of the unknowns in the future, of what's going to happen. Elon Musk said that being an entrepreneur is like staring into the abyss while chewing on glass, because it's just it's the unknown. You don't know what's going to be in the future, and that's the scariest thing.
Yeah.
But if you know for certain that if you're continuing with something for a long enough period of time and constantly improving on it, and it's impossible to lose, it's a very freeing and like peaceful feeling that I think is amazing to have, because it's not about the end destination. The money isn't going to make you happy. It's about the journey. And so if you can have fun along the journey of becoming the best version of yourself, of constantly improving, then you've won right then and there. You don't have to get to the end destination. You've won literally every single day by waking up happy, excited, peaceful, while still working on the thing.
Yeah, man, I came back from valuable words, man. Amazing. I was in a conference called the Visionary Summit, and I met a guy named Steve Young, and he's on my podcast. So watch the episode, because this guy
for sure will.
Thinking is like, he's special.
Steven Young.
I'm
gonna watch that.
And his thought process is like, one of the exercises that he had us do was like, I want you to envision yourself on the last day of your life, right? And I want you to talk back to who you are right now, like your age right now in this room. And I want you to use your left hand or your non-dominant hand to write out a message for yourself. And I don't want you to think about it, right? What is the thing that your future self wants to tell you right now? And then you wrote it out, right? And I started writing it out. And my future self told me that, like, I have everything that I want. Stop pushing, stop moving to, you know what I mean? Like, you're living your bonus life right now. Like, right now is your bonus life. And so when, in that perspective, I was like, holy crap. And then one of the things he also talked about was everybody likes to compartmentalize things. But he said we shouldn't be looking at life as compartmentalizing. We should be viewing it as a harmony, as an orchestra, right? So your family life is the woodwinds, your business life is the percussion, your, spiritual life is, the strings. And so when you view your life in harmony, it's either in harmony or it's not. It's in disharmony. And so us thinking that we can, like, work-life balance things is not how we are supposed to operate as human beings. We're supposed to harmonize with it, right? Because my personal life will go into my business life and vice versa. So if I can harmonize all of that and everything's working in harmony, then the orchestra is playing the music of my life in a way where it's just harmonic, right? And people are trying to do too many things that are not harmonic because they're trying to separate out, and that's not how life is. I mean, dude, this guy is on a whole nother level, which I was like blown away. So, I came back and, just started sharing that with my team and my family, and, and life just got so much more amazing when I realized that I'm already living my bonus life. I'm already living that life. I don't have to, I'm not going to get there and then be happy. Just like you said, when you have the cars and the house and all of that, like, that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be happy now. Tony Robbins says it, it's easier said than done sometimes, though.
Bro, that's amazing, man. The harmony is going to stick with me for a long time. That is beautiful.
Yeah, it was incredible when I heard it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. It's crazy, man. And I think the downfall of entrepreneurs specifically within all of this is because balance is the hardest skill set in all of life, in my personal opinion. I don't think that there's anything more difficult than balance. And really, that's all we're trying to achieve in life. And what happens in entrepreneurship, and in order to succeed in a very short period of time, it's literally impossible to have balance.
Right.
So people want to succeed faster than other people. And so what that involves is sacrifice. And so therefore you're sacrificing the balance and sacrificing the time with the family, sacrificing your time with faith, all of these things to push harder in entrepreneurship. And what I find is that when you're in excess of something and you become addicted to the game of entrepreneurship, and you live such a long time of being unbalanced. For example, myself, I was living an unbalanced life for about 7 years. What happens is when you get to a place of financial freedom, when you get to a place of where you have more time on your hands, you've been living unbalanced for so long that it becomes the comfortable and it becomes the normal. Your mind is like a hamster wheel constantly spinning to figure out problems. And as you go through the entrepreneurship journey, the hamster gets bigger, the wheel gets bigger, and it goes faster. And so it becomes harder to slow down. It becomes harder to make smaller. And you're basically having at a point to retrain your brain to go back to a balanced state, which is very difficult because you become very successful at a period of time by having your mindset like that. And so usually I found that business owners are constantly in that state and never get out of it. And it's a sad place where you see very successful people who are,
miserable.
They don't have other aspects of their life put together. And it's for that exact reason. And it's because exactly what we're talking about, where winning in life is going along the journey in a balanced way and enjoying every single moment of it, because it's not about the end destination at all.
Yeah. And it is a sad thing that, like, so many people will get to the end and they go, oh my God, why did I do that? You know what I mean? Like, I sacrificed all of that for nothing, And it's like, damn, yeah, I gotta slow it down. Cause one thing that I I'm always going to have work. It is always going to be something. If I don't turn it off at some point, like, I'm screwing myself, right? Because I'm thinking that I'm going to get to a point where I'm never going to have something to do. That is never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So you just got to turn it the fuck off. You know what I mean? Like 4:00, that's it. Go home, be with family, and do that thing. You just got to turn off. It's difficult though, to your point, when you're so ingrained in the hustle and just like grinding to like get to the next level, when that becomes that becomes part of who you are. There's a really good book. It's called Driven, right? And I'm a member of an organization called the Visionary Summit and the Visionary Forum. And it's just a group of guys and girls from across the country that are visionaries. And I read this book and I was so validated. It was the first time in my life where I felt validated that I was normal in how I operated, because I was such a driven person. And in this book, he talks about how people with our personality types that are driven, like, understand this concept and are not necessarily part of the majority, right? Like, our mindset is not the majority mindset. It's why there's so few people that do that. And hallelujah, I can't imagine a world with a bunch of Armandos. You know what I mean? Like, that would not be a good thing. We have our place for sure.
Entrepreneurs, every single person.
All entrepreneurs, like, visionary types, like nothing would get done. However, I felt validated in the book because I finally felt like, it's okay to think this way. Like, it's okay to be this way. And, I just need to understand. And it talks about like meditation. And I notice on your social media that you meditate, and slowing down and really meditating, guys, is something that, if you can incorporate into your life, really will yield, amazing results, right? Because like the best ideas come from meditation, slowing down the nervous system, like really, taking a step back and going, oh, okay, frustration is not, why am I frustrated? Oh, it's probably because I worked 5 hours straight and I didn't even, I haven't eaten, I'm not drinking enough water. I'm not exercising. I'm not doing healthy things. Right. So, but you're just so hardcore working that you forget those things, so slowing down, 2 or 3 times a day to meditate, it's right there where it's at, man.
Meditating's unreal. Yeah. Meditating, like at the simplest level, is just slowing down your mind to focus just on one thing, because we're pulled in so many different directions in the day. We're meditating at its simplest form. Really, you can just pay attention to your breath. So it's getting you more in tune to your body. And that's my favorite, is just the breath meditation, where you're literally just thinking about nothing else besides the breathing in of your breath and breathing out of your breath. And it's interesting that I didn't really value meditation in terms of what it did for what it does for you, and like all of the other benefits. Like, how could something possibly be so amazing and that's so simple in terms of just breathing in and breathing out? But it completely clears your mind. It's an aspect of retraining your mind to have complete clarity.
Yeah. Is that why you moved to Puerto Rico, to slow down a bit?
I moved to Puerto Rico for many reasons. The slowing down a bit is definitely an amazing one. I love how there's no distractions out here too. I live in a kind of a remote place in Puerto Rico. And so I'm not pulled in any different directions with people wanting to go out and party or people wanting to invite me to a gathering. I'm really able to just be with my family and then work on the business and work on my health pretty much.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Dude. Such a pleasure. Where do people find you and how can they work with you?
For sure. Right now we're trying to scale the next generational leaders of personal brands. So if you're here and, 8-figure business looking to grow a personal brand, not sure how many of those would be listening, but you can send me an Instagram DM at Luke Lintz and I can talk to you about like all the services we have. If you're here and just like starting up, entrepreneur, or maybe in high school and university, that's what all my content is geared towards on social media. So I'm actually pumping out some sick YouTube videos right now at Luke Lintz, and that's probably the best place in terms of valuable content. Nice.
I'm definitely following. Glad you came on board, man. Full of knowledge. God bless. Keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's awesome. It's amazing.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. Thanks for the interview too. This was fun.
Heck yeah. All right. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment for all of your social media needs, podcasting, content. We got you. And you can watch Spaghetti on the Wall anywhere. You're probably listening to it right now. So keep listening, and we'll see y'all next week.